to be fair, this whole live stream is got to be the easiest one ever. You sent me booze. I'm going to sit here and drink it, and you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, well, as much as I can, because one of the things I found out when you try and find out like detail about Chartreuse is there's not a lot of detail that's around it. Oh, thank you. Some tongs have arrived.
Well, I did wonder whether we should have tried to find an actual brand ambassador or something like that to join us.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think there's also anyone that's really interested in it. There's this really lovely, hefty tome. Look at that. Thick.
That's hefty. What does it say on the side of it?
It says Chartreuse, Pete, because we're talking about Chartreuse. That's what we're talking about today.
Oh, yeah, look at that. See, why is my eyesight's not so good, mate, unfortunately.
So, anyway, yeah, so that's what we're talking about. But, of course, most of how it's made is a big, big secret. So, we'll have to... It's really going to be about the tasting, I think, more than anything, Pete.
I think so, yeah. To be fair, So we've had these for... You've been promising me this tasting set for a while. And then it's been sitting there going like, we should do a thing about it, shouldn't we? And it's been sitting there. It's been looking at me. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you've seen my front room, there are many samples everywhere. It is, quite frankly, almost dangerous. But, like, there's so much booze in there. But these ones have been winking at me for a while because they've got grand names like Anniversary and Sommelier and stuff like that on there. So it's kind of like, right, I'm kind of... And I genuinely, I have not tasted a single one of these.
You're very disciplined.
Yeah, it kind of happens. Does kind of happen. We've got yes, nice book. Thank you. Hello
thank
to everyone there.
Bernie actually brought it back from San Francisco for me. She went to an event, so actually Bernie might be able to tell us some stuff. If we
you know what I'm
Bernie,
do?
if you know anything more than we do when we're talking about these,
I'm just while you're in filling, I'm just going to send Bernie a message, and we might get her in as well. We've got at some point today, soon, we will be joined by our friend Harp. Mann, known better as Mann, who's going to join us from a sort of like from a mixology point of view. Ooh, I'll let him introduce himself. He is rather a legend when it comes to Instagram and amazing creations. Anyway, where's Bernard? I'm just going to send her a link. No, this makes great TV when we do it on the fly. But there you go. Right.
And Dan, probably not enough yet. That's probably the honest answer.
Chucky's, I love Chartreuse. Chartreuse is so good. It is. You know what? It's kind of it's one of those things where it's been around a very long time, but I've known about it for a while, but I never really got into it. And it wasn't until Matt Dackers was the the face of the brand here in the UK, which was a while ago now, and until I kind of really sort of tried it, and I go like, oh my god, this is good. This is really good. Where has it been all my life? And then like people like Matt Dackers also saying that whole thing where he'd take like a measure of it every day, like, and he never felt better for it. It's just like he felt like it was this kind of thing. Now, Matt Dackers is also, he's a beautiful chap. He was also the one. Do you remember him from the Bacardi Legacy when he won Bacardi Legacy? And he was the one who created the whole Hoxton honey secret ingredient. Right. You remember that one, which didn't exist. So he's not short of telling a tale. Let's put it that way. But he did it very convincingly. I mean, he did it. He certainly did it well enough for Bacardi Legacy, and and it could just be from the Chartreuse point of view, but as well. But I did it for a little while, and I have to say that I think it's a rather nice way to spend your day. Part of your day, just taking a little bit on that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So here we go. Chartreuse, probably the one that most people will know is the green one, which we've got here. Chartreuse, like the colour. Chartreuse, that's where the colour gets its name from the liqueur. It's 55% ABV. So it's, a lot of liqueurs, if you're sipping them neat, and also, there's not a lot of liqueurs that are sipped neat. It used to be back in the day, Poirot and his creme de menthe. I know. Pete's got himself a little bit of a Ken Branagh kind of Poirot look now, so I can imagine he's probably enjoying a little creme de menthe frappe. That's why he can't have the Chartreuse.
It's just because I haven't got a shirt waistcoat combination to rival you with. So that's the problem.
So it's one of these liqueurs that goes back many, and we'll get into that a little bit later on, but many, many years, hundreds of years, centuries. And started off as a herbal kind of elixir for medicinal qualities, which again harks right back to the early days of distillation. That's what a lot of it was about, or all of it was about. Supposedly, anyway, I'm sure people enjoyed drinking it as well. So it's 130 herbs, spices, all these different things, and there's no real mention of what these 130 botanicals, shall we call them, are. There's some bits here and there, some rumors, and you can kind of pick it up from tasting it a little bit. And it's kind of one of those things that, you have the liqueur and you kind of think it's for this cocktail and that cocktail, and you never really use very much. And I think probably everyone's got their little story about how they get into Chartreuse. And I can't remember why I did it, but I was in the US, and I had a very small hip flask, and I was like, oh, a hip flask, I found it in a bag. And I opened it up and took a little swig, and I was like, oh, Chartreuse. For some reason, I put Chartreuse in a hip flask, but it's very nice in a hip flask, I'll tell you, because it's warming and all those things. Anyway, enough of the gassing.
You don't remember putting it in the hip flask in the first place?
I can't remember many things, Pete, in honesty. I'm sure your house is like mine, with all these little bottles. Some are labelled, some aren't.
Yeah, I have to say that I'll repeat this. I've said it before, but really a pox on anyone who doesn't put, like, if you're giving away samples, put a right on it what it actually is, because like 3 days later in my house I've got no idea. It completely gets out of context.
Could be anything. Sometimes you can work out what type of booze it is, sometimes you can't.
Chartreuse, I think I have a fair chance of picking.
Well, that is true. Well, which Chartreuse though, Pete? Which one. I think we'll start with the one that everyone knows. Yeah. So you can kind of see why
I like that.
Like, it has this interest. Once people get into it, there's a bit of a cult following for sure. I've chosen this little glass here just because I think there's all these weird little glasses that we have around. They are for liqueurs. Let's enjoy having them in liqueurs. We could use tasting glasses, but no, we're going to use this little thing instead.
I'm putting the Glencans away.
Yeah, put the Glencans away. I mean, as nice as they are. Oh, nice to see Natasha here. Hello. He's just getting himself together.
That's all right. I've only got a couple, you see, or at least a hand. I've got more glasses than you can shake a stick at, but I've got 3
little liqueur ones.
Yes.
So have a little taste, Pete, and let us know what you think.
Well, I was practicing vigorously with this last night. I actually drank more of it than I should. Not out of this one, obviously, out of the other bowl. But I probably drank more of it than I should have done. But I don't feel
it's got all that sugar as well as all that booze. I mean, it's 50, as I said, 55% ABV, so it's strong.
I have to say that the first time I tried it, it did kind of scare me at 55. And I guess a few years ago, my palate wasn't as used to high proof liquor as it might be in the modern era. And I was a bit like, oh my God, this is a bit hot. But now it's like taking medicine.
It obviously has that medicinal quality, but I mean, what particular flavors do you get out of it, Pete?
Well, I'm menthol thing, but there's there is, despite the large amount of sugar that is obviously present because it is quite thick and heavy, and I imagine it is at least the 100 grams per litre you'd expect from liqueur. There is an astringency that's in there that, that there must be some proper herbal stuff, and I'm guessing it's going to be the wormwood and things like that, the kind of stuff you'd expect.
Those herbal things. I think there's like tarragon or something. That would be my guess. Those. So there's a definite leafiness to it, and this is kind of the interesting thing when we come on to the yellow one, and it's trying to work out how do these things change, because this selection that we've got here, I mean, I can tell you about why they were released, but in actual specifics other than the ABV that's different, quite hard to say this is why this one is different, this is why this one's different,
Daniel's thrown in a greater than 20%. What does he mean by that? Do you want to elaborate, chap, on that one? These cryptic things.
That's formulae now. I mean, it's got to that point already. One thing that I did find out about the production method, though, is that it's a combination of this distillation and maceration, and the botanicals are macerated beforehand, and then they're distilled. And I think the sense that I get is that probably different batches of botanicals are distilled in together. So it won't be like individual distillation. Over 20% sugar. It's not individual like distillation of botanicals. I think that they're batched, and I don't know, but my guess is probably because different botanicals, when they're distilled, react differently to maybe how fast the still's running in terms of like heat and things like that. Maybe even as there is a maceration beforehand, it wouldn't surprise me if there would be some variation in the ABV of the maceration. So some might be macerating like quite low at like maybe 30 or 40% ABV. Others might be higher at 50 or 60, and then they're distilled. So that's kind of, and then there's
do you get a vibe that the company says they set a recipe like all those donkey's years ago and they've never veered from it ever since? I can't see that being the case at all. I'd have thought technology and
that's an interesting like general question, and I think like anyone that has tried to make anything, even over like a 5-year period, will realize that things change, right? That anyone that that uses botanicals, they are natural things. They change season to season because it's hotter or it's sunnier or it's wetter, and you have to have some element of control to keep the consistency going. I imagine a big part of how they keep that consistency going is large batches before you not made in large batches, but some quality control of like a Solera or something like that. I mean, that's what I would do if it was me doing it, because I think it's the only way you can get that.
Vary, aren't they?
Sorry?
Crops are going to vary. The species and things are going to have changed over a long period of time. So
and you won't always be able to get it from exactly the same place. And even if I know anything about like modern history, I know that there are some gins that they disappeared maybe 10 years ago. They tried to bring them back, and no one had the recipe. Like 10 years ago, like, I had to recreate it. I never tasted the original, but I've had to recreate this product. That has happened more times than I think many people would care to admit. Write things down, everyone.
Write things down. Well, we've got Jared and Anastasia to unpick the mysteries of distillation from hidden codices, haven't we? So you just have to wait a few hundred years these days.
So there you go. There's the green one. I think it's the one that you kind of see the most. It's the one that's probably in the most drinks. Things like your Chartreuse Swizzle, which we'll make in a little bit. I know you've got one already, but I'll make that in a little bit. Things like The Last Word and a number of other different ones. Works very well with gin, as you kind of imagine. It's that botanical kind of element, but it also brings some sweetness in as well. So let's move on to well, I tell you what, I'm gonna mix it up a little bit, Pete. So let's move on to this one. So this is 47%. This is the 900th anniversary bottling. There we go.
Beautiful.
So this is at 47%. So it's not as strong as the last one we had, the green one that we had. So let's have a taste of this.
Any sense of why they may have done that?
Why they changed the ABV? I mean, it's a celebratory blend. So I guess, the thing is, once it's at 55%, you can't really go up. Not very easily. And there is, of course, the Elixir Vegetal at 69%. So I think that's possibly that's part of it. 47% is quite sort of standard export kind of strength. So, and also, if you've got something that's a little bit more, like I said, anniversary, celebratory, maybe you want it so that it's a bit sippable. I actually think the 55% is very sippable, but it is also very strong. So maybe that's part of it. So these are both in the green. If you can kind of, these were you can see there's some slight variation there. This one's slightly yellowy. Certainly it looks like it on the screen, and it does look like that here. Oh, here we go. Natasha's come up with something here. Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, thanks for that, Natasha. So Natasha's saying that the yellow, the 1828 yellow Chartreuse, and it's basically, there's also a slight difference in the base spirit. So we've got a beet sugar beet base, which I know is Pete's favourite to make rum out of.
Can't make one from sugar beet, mate. But you can make alcohol.
I know. Whereas the yellow is a grape base, which is quite interesting. So,
different.
So that one
that comes over actually straight away. The delivery is quite different.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think they've. Well, I think if anything, actually, the little bottle's been open less time than the larger one. But yeah, so I think you've got.
I mean, it feels
this 9th century is definitely sweeter, I think.
Sweeter, but there's also it feels a little more fruit about it. But maybe that's the perception of the sugar that's kind of sort of delivering that as well.
Yeah, and there's I get a slight sort of tannin, like tea-like tannin note at the end.
I think only people like I don't count myself in your tasting kind of camp. To be fair, I'm kind of a mere pretender, but to be trying spirit of this ABV and this kind of consistency and still kind of trying to analyze it does take a certain skill set, I think.
I think whilst it is sweeter, I think that it has a I think it is a little bit more accessible, and I think that's probably what the point. I think certainly, like if you put that with some ice, and you're just kind of sipping it, and you get a little bit of the ice melt, I think that will take the edge off the sweetness and the temperature. I mean, I think what would be very interesting is to play a bit around with the temperature of these because they're so. I mean, they do make very good cocktail, either bases or modifiers in cocktails. But because they are so complicated, I think there's quite a lot that could be done playing around with the temperature that they were served at a little bit. So these are ambient, but you could have them in the fridge. You could have them, certainly like the 55 and the 47. Stick them in the freezer, no problem.
Oh.
They could be quite nice. I've experimented a little bit with.
I've got a couple of inches in the bowl. That's going to go in the deep freeze straight after this one. Actually, you know what I mean? That's it is a thing. Actually, yeah, I got a nice heavy liqueur straight from. The reason I've got a pear liqueur in the fridge because of a very French friend of mine, Yves. If you're listening, that's your fault. We have comments there. A few comments actually come through there. Dan Hall, interesting. I hear yellow is good with Hamden rum and green is not. That's interesting. And we've got Mixman's Harp saying about he's got a completely unplanned, but he has got some recipes that use Chartreuse, which I think he wants to share with us particularly as well. I kind of feel like turning this one into having a more of a cocktail focus is pretty awesome. I made this drink. I'm gonna start sipping on it. We'll talk a bit more about it in a moment, but I made it earlier. I don't want the ice to melt too much.
No,
but it's a Chartreuse swizzle without swizzling it as such.
Yeah, and without the crushed ice.
Without the I didn't know. I kind of like with the 5 minutes before we were going to go live, I realised I didn't have time to crush the ice, so I decided to go live basically on time.
I came to the same decision. We had so anyway, so they're the two like in that green style. Now let's move on to the yellow that we have here. So this is at 40%. There we go. There, that's the yellow one. So let's have a little taste of this. Again, they talk about, once again, the 130 herbs. One of the things, some reference I found online had suggested that maybe the yellow's got cardamom on it instead of, or in some variation, but we don't totally know.
Could there be trace amounts of something like saffron or something like that in it? Little bits, do you think?
Well, possibly. I mean, the colour is evocative of it. Yeah. Again, my apologies because it does sound like I just don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But Jason, there you go. Jason, we started with the 55% green. Then we did the 9th, the 900th anniversary one. So here we go. This is yellow. It's in a little glass here, sort of this little shaped one.
I don't think that's the very first time I've ever drunk it, but for some reason, yellow just has never really featured. It's always been the green. Mostly, I suppose, because it comes up in cocktails and things.
And one's got another 15% ABV on it, which I'm sure appeals to you.
Oh, that kind of also does kind of feel like a thing, doesn't it? You know, it's like, I mean, you know, it's not. I mean, let's face it. A bottle of Chartreuse is not the cheapest spirit on the shelf.
No,
you know,
no. And that was always why I was reluctant to really look into it, which was a shame, really, because it is. I think it's about £35, something like that.
Yeah,
so what is a modifier?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I suppose my whole outlook on the price of spirits has changed a reasonable amount over the last 10 years. But kind of when you first are looking at it, you go, oh, I don't know, can I afford to buy both? I'm going to choose one or the other. And you go, well, I'll go for that, the green, because it seems to be the one that's used perhaps more widely in cocktails. That'd be the safer bet. But it's definitely, it feels more floral. I mean, I suppose part of the color you could kind of, it's not a stretch to imagine like honey or whatever could be a part of it as well. But
there's a sweetness to it. There's a slight dryness to it as well, though. I get a slight. Again, it's so hard to not be led by the color, but some slightly sort of hay chamomile things. But also, I get like a very light kind of sort of gentian-y kind of thing going on, which also could be. Which also does relate to the color somewhat. It's not really bitter, but the flavor profile is very different. It seems also quite lighter to me, but then that's 40%, right? So
I can imagine taking this before they add the sugar to it. I imagine it would be undrinkable. The astringency on it, the power in it. I think that it takes the sugar to actually to deliver it. And I don't mean that it's a terrible drink. It's just that I think that it would be a very concentrated flavoring to start with, and then you sort of ease the sugar in, and it kind of like that makes it work. But I'd still love to have a go. I don't know what it tastes like. Very, very intense, I think.
Had a question from Jason about do we have the VEP? Not for the. I don't have the VEP. I've tried it. Well, I've only tried the green one. I've never tried the yellow one. Has anyone that's watching, if they've tried the yellow one, I'd be very intrigued to know what you think. The VEP, for those that don't know, is the luxurious version. For some reason, sold in a litre bottle. I mean, most of the time, when you have the more luxurious things, they tend to be a smaller size bottle. But it is. I did look it up because I was tempted. £116 a bottle for the VEP, and that is the big difference with that is it's aged for, I think it's at least 8 years, aged for a long time. So you can understand why it's more expensive. If you think roughly, Chartreuse is about 50 quid a litre. If you work out in that way, so it's a little bit more than twice the price, but then it's 8 years as opposed to, I mean, the other ones are aged as well, but not for that length. So it's kind of interesting. I've tried the green one, and it is very, very good. And eventually, at some point, I think I'll get some of the green one, Pete. But I don't know about the yellow one because they're the same price, and I just like the green one better. It's basically I'm where you were like 5 years ago, but like you said, the prices we're working on have just changed.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of feel like it's worth spending the money though for good booze.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
this has, the more I kind of sip of it, actually, the more that kind of chamomile vibe that you talked about kind of is growing on me more and more with it, actually. And I know it's the power suggestion and tasting is there, but there's something about the way that it's not so much the taste of it, but it's the way that it leaves the palate feeling afterwards. I think is more how I feel.
I think the interesting thing with the, I guess we'll talk about this a bit later as well, with the cocktails, with the comment we've got here, is for sure, like the generally if you've got the green chartreuse in a drink, you're gonna know it's there. But the yellow one is a bit more malleable. We were drinking Alaska's yesterday, which if I remember off the top of my head is 3-1 gin to yellow chartreuse, and that's it. I mean, you can stir it, you can I think it's meant to be stirred, but we shook it because I thought, well, it's Alaska and it's cold, and that works quite.
It's not
I wanted a bit of variation, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's not often that you can add a modifier and it brings the ABV up.
That's very good. Well, I was using high strength gin, obviously.
Oh, well, obviously, because absolutely. Why wouldn't you want to really not bother with dilution or anything like that? Yeah,
right, exactly. So we'll move on to the. I'll show you first before I pour it. So this is another.
I think we need to hang out and drink booze without people watching. We can get far more rascally.
So this is the sort of Sommeliers, the Craftsman's edition that was done in concert with kind of the master crafts people of their various different fields, not just booze, like everything, you know. And they kind of got together and made this chartreuse. What's one of the quite nice things that I've noticed is that there are different, every 5 years or so they'll release some other like variation or something like that, which is quite fun. And they're not always actually hideously expensive if you buy them when they come out. If you want to buy them subsequently, then they are. But
fair, I'm kind of well. This one you described it. And I did kind of have a look. It's actually on. I shall move to my my ones as well very soon.
Oh yeah, you got one as well.
Well, we were talking about pineapples, weren't we? But the Master of Malt do stock the Sommelier.
They do.
Edition. So is there? And it didn't blow me away. They're like, oh, in terms of pricing, like, oh shit, like, oh, I thought. But then also, if it's designed to be used, maybe they're kind of like, you know, cause it's slightly lower ABV and trying to make it a little more out there.
Yeah, this is 45.
Yeah, so when there's a costing.
So this special edition is stronger than the original, as it were, whereas the green one, it's the other way around. So there we go. I
have to say that immediately that the first sip onto the palate, and this is literally I cracking these open for the first time, but it was far more honeyed onto the palate than I thought with the other ones.
Far more honeyed. There's some anise going on there. There's vanilla. It reminds me a bit of a bit like Strega or like Galliano or something like that.
Oh.
So, actually, I mean, you could
such bad memories of Galliano and Harvey Wallbangers from the early 90s.
Yeah. I'm intrigued as to how this would work in such a drink instead of the Galliano. Like what the twist would be in terms of the flavour. Because I mean, I know it was a few years back, but there was some reformulation with Galliano, and it moved a little bit. Here we go. What's the Oh, fascinating! Because I know Natasha's been to Chartreuse, so she's our insider here, which is great. Absolutely fascinating that the crystallized, because that was what I was wondering about. Was like, if you were going to barrel age a liqueur, do you barrel age it as the liqueur, or do you barrel age it pre-sugar? Which is quite interesting. There's something similar at Benedictine. Which we could do a Benedictine one at some point, Pete. There you go. And they do an age. They do all the monk liqueurs.
I bought a bottle of Benedictine yonks ago for a cocktail. I wish people would sell liqueurs in like small amounts easily, so you could like more readily. I put it that way. So if you're making a cocktail, you can just get a little bit, you know, to play with.
But you can in the US. This is the thing. So like this, my friend Kelly Rivers bought me this over from the US, and actually she's over the years has bought me small bottles, these like half bottles of everything. So then when I put it in we have a liqueur cupboard. So when you can pop round, Pete, you can come round and you can see the liqueur cupboard. Used to be a liqueur trolley, but now it's in a cupboard. It's just a lot easier, right, to have it in the smaller batch. But the Benedictine also do their fancy version, and that is a long aged process as well. So, I mean, I was guessing of those 130 botanicals, there may well be some juniper in there.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? To be fair, I mean, like is 130 botanicals? Are we really in the Monkey 47 kind of like area? Are we like? I mean, really, you know, if you took one out, are you really going to know the difference, or like, are they just like, no? We are so ingrained, we cannot do this any other way. Or of course, they could just botanicals and just. You're
suggesting, let's experiment.
Well, it could be that these guys are just kind of making it and going like, well, you know, there's only 10 in there really, but we've, you know, some drunk monk like 300 years ago said it was like, you know, it's that many, and we had to run with it because, like, you know, the king of whatever.
We think it's actually 13, and like they just like put a 0 on the end or something.
They're just like, just kind of like, let's go on, boost it up. You know, King of Spain thinks it's awesome. We got to, you know, he signed it off or something crazy like that. We just got to kind of run with it, you know.
Yeah. So that's the range of those four. It's kind of interesting. I'm intrigued to those watching that have tried different Chartreuses, what your favourite one is, because it's kind of interesting just to see. Particularly, the caveat would be drinking it neat. That would be my caveat. I'd be very intrigued to hear what we would have to say. Then you have this. Oh yeah, go on.
Can I say that last one we had was very nice, but I'm hankering for the green again. After it didn't quite deliver the way I kind of hoped. I think it's probably a better costed product, something that far more viable for cocktails in general, maybe. or for more wider use. But actually, no, I want to go back to the green.
Are you talking about the first yellow or the second yellow?
So the Sommelier is not
Sommelier.
as crazy. The yellow's nice. I very much enjoyed that one actually. The Sommelier didn't quite punch, but no, it's the green. It's the original. That's kind of the one that's calling me back the most. Does that make me basic? I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think so. So then you've also got this, which is the Elixir Vegetal, which comes in this sort of like Russian doll kind of container.
So this is
69%. It's again trying to find out much about it is again very difficult. You can see it's exceptionally dark there, and it's a much smaller bottle. It's worth noting, because I think I've been caught out by this, maybe years and years and years ago, that this will appear much cheaper. This is about 15 quid, I think. So, but it is not the same as the 55. It's a different thing. Jason, I'm very interested, whilst we're talking about this, as this is your favourite, how do you tend to drink it? And I just need to go and grab something, and I should be back.
Is this though? I said the question is this the sort of one that you're working with? Because I see people in cocktail recipes and specs use little bits of it. I'm just going to try it for the first time, so bear with me. I didn't realise the bottle was so small, but it kind of makes sense why you gave us a little bit, and I thought, well, you've either got to the end of the bottle, or as it turns out, the bottle's very small.
Oh, it's also got a dripper on it, so you have to shake it like a dasher.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's used as a dasher. I'm slightly. Yeah. I poured a very small amount into this glass in case anyone thinks I'm going to shoot an entire glass of the 69, because I'm really not.
So one of the things I had read online was to put some on a sugar cube, which reminds me of like having a polio vaccine or something. I thought we were
going to have an absinthe story from college days, mate. I think that's what I thought. That's what was coming.
So anyway, I've not tried this before. I've put it on there. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's just odd eating a sugar cube, I think. It's really flavors than that. All right. I mean, maybe if I was like 5 or 6, I could eat a sugar cube. I mean, to be fair, my issue is more with the sugar cube, but the flavour is really nice. And it's complex. I think one thing that you could maybe do like sugary water, I think is the other thing they talk about.
So Jason saying he prefers it neat. I feel like that's a very strong way to. But like, so I think I kind of with these things, I kind of this idea. I want to kind of compare it in some respects to absinthe, and I know I shouldn't because it's not the same thing. But it's kind of like that idea of kind of like idea of loosening it or lengthening it somehow, to get the best out of it. I feel like that at 69, this doesn't feel like it's something that was sort of intentionally put out there to be sort of drunk. I'm going to pour the last of it in the glass because.
Yeah, I'm just going to grab a bottle of gin. I should be back.
What you mean? You don't have gin? Oh my god!
I have gin. It's just in the other room.
Oh god! Honestly, he's as bad as I am. So yes, we did plan this one. We've been talking about doing this talk for a long time, but it looks like we planned it about 3 seconds before we went live. That's what it looks like, anyway. I didn't. It's not like we sold tickets. Like nobody has to watch this, do they? This is for you and I. This was going to be a private one, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. And then we're like, oh, we'll put it online. Why not?
We'd be like, see if anyone else has got some interesting stuff to bring to it.
Well, yeah, and as they have, which is great. What struck me, I was wondering about how it would be if I tried to make like a pink gin out of it. Well, not a pink gin because it's green, but
obviously.
So, going to try it. So just a few dashes in there to see. Using this. There you go, Dan. Put the Cotswolds. Well, that's Dan's here,
That's all right. I don't believe in product placement at all, so I'm just going to leave that there.
So I think that's like part of the thing. It's part of the thing with drinks in general, but particularly with these, because there is variation, but there's not a huge amount of information. I mean, like if you're talking about other liqueurs or gins or something, you can get like so bogged down and like, oh, it's got this botanical and that. And sometimes you can get like more distracted by actually what does it taste like? How can you use it? And I think at least like with this kind of approach, we're doing a bit more of that, which is probably a great time to, if we got as our special guest here.
So yes, well, he's not here, but I was kind of like, we can give him a nod. Harp, if you are there, mate, I know you've been viewing along, but if you'd love to join us, it'd be awesome if you could. When he pops into the studio, I'll there. I was kind of like slightly worried that when he was watching, he might be watching and then have like Facebook Live and then be on. It was going to end up with like feedback like hell kind of thing. But you know what? So this thing is the most interesting to nose, I think, and it's I haven't got it properly in my mouth. I was only a touch on the first one, but I wonder whether this is kind of like almost like the starting point for the regular, and they've just kind of not, this is at the higher proof, and before it kind of gets taken down to that kind of regular bottle. I don't know, no idea what the history of it is, but you see, everyone's there. We go, Harp, equals Mix Man. Oh, he's all excited, and oh my god, he's going to put us all to shame now.
Oh,
hello, mates.
I'll take for myself. I'll stop the feedback. So,
no, just in case. Yes, just in case. Anyway, like it's one of those things, kind of like where people have got it on in the background, and it just it kind of kills us all. Hello, thanks for joining us at such short notice.
I've been swinging away. I've been really, really jealous because I've had the green. I've got the yellow. You can see I really like the green. Not much left. And I've been doing what Jason suggested and doing my brain cell singular bit of harm by trying this one neat. But those other two that you've been trying today really seem like I want to try those now. So.
Okay, just from Jason, I've got to say that is actually ridiculously good neat. The last one at 69. But that's a big spirit to drink, spirit to drink neat. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think you could far better use it in cocktails and things like that. Cool. That was wow. It's so much drier and so much more.
It's really
powerful.
Yeah. It's got none of the sugar in, right? So that's
this feels like the raw starting point. So perfect.
I think before we get right into the cocktails, it's also worth noting that there was a white chartreuse. I think at some point it was. I think it was like sort of late Victorian period. There was something. And actually, I think this works quite nicely. Actually, this sort of as that. Just that little modifier. You're getting that it's a herbaceous gin anyway with the lavender and that, but you're just getting a different level and got a nice little bit of Lucian going on, and just a like sort of. I mean, that actually is getting because with the Lush as well, getting your sort of absinthe vibe there, really, aren't you, Pete? So
yeah.
Anyway,
exactly. So Harp, maybe just for the benefits of, please introduce yourself. Like I know we don't. We just kind of ball straight in, but then we don't expect anyone other than our mothers to be watching this anyway. So
Yeah. And apologies about the glare. I'm going to put my lights on so you can see what I'm doing in a minute. But yeah, my name's Harp, Mann. Bit of a joke. Started calling myself Mix Man when I started blogging a few years back. It sort of stuck. And sometimes when we used to do events, that thing where there's a place called a bar, and And come to the front door and people say, who are you? Harp Man. No, not this. Oh, Mix Man. So I had to change my first name. By day I work in the IT boring industry, and by night my release is drinks, daily blogging, daily drinking. It's a great excuse, gets me into and out of trouble. And just understanding the history of different drinks and brands and vermouth and amaro, and just like whatever I learn I put down and share, and then make up some strange concoctions, and sometimes they work, and hopefully they mostly work. So just have a ball like we all do with drinks. And I recognise a few of the guys today, like Dan. Hi Dan, and Sean as well. So nice to be with friends.
I feel like I follow your work a lot. It turns out I'm not necessarily following you on Instagram, but I am now. Just to say, so I do apologise for that. I'm not as organised as I'd like. I've just shared the link to your Instagram in there because I'll put your Facebook in as well because you have quite a following. 38,000 followers on Instagram is pretty impressive by anyone's work. And just because he won't blow his own trumpet, I will just say that his cocktail photography is some of the best that I have seen as well. It is absolutely superb. So congratulations on doing a great job. Please carry on. You know, but
you said to keep carrying on, so.
Keep going at it. But we were chatting last night, and as you said, you've used Chartreuse a lot in cocktails. I mean, it's an obvious modifier, isn't it? So I thought maybe you'd be kind enough to share some ideas.
Yeah, and I'll be making one up in a minute as well, because that's what you really want to see. But yeah, I guess we've had a few centuries to get used to making cocktails with Chartreuse in some shape or form. So no excuses for anyone who hasn't had one. But no, it's joking apart. I guess it's one of those classic liqueurs. You know, you've touched on a few today. You know, Benedictine and and others that stood the test of time. And Chartreuse is one that I discovered in the. I think it's probably in the. I'm not showing my age. In the 70s, behind my dad's home bar, and when you when I was sort of dabbling with,
how old are you?
Putting them on, going to hit 50 this year, and well, yeah, I was dabbling behind the bar a bit underage, but all I was doing was research and understanding and pouring it on ice cream and doing stupid things like that, and that's probably what led me to mixology at some shape or form. Yeah, it's one of those flavors that's really adds a real boost to lots of drinks. And I'm not going to teach some of you guys how to suck eggs, but it's a drink that's really come to life during the pre-prohibition times. We got some famous ones like The Last Word. Because I'm getting old, I've written down what's on them because I'll forget. But The Last Word is sort of equal measures of gin, Chartreuse, green Chartreuse, maraschino, and lime juice. So that's a real classic. And then you've got the swizzle that you've talked about earlier today, so I won't go into that. But that's not actually that old drink. I think it goes back to 2002. So that's a good one. I think The Last Word was something that goes back to sort of pre-prohibition times, got lost a little bit, found its way in a book in the 1950s. And then some bartenders in America brought it back to life, and it's become a modern day classic of a classic. If you know what I mean. But what I made a few months ago was there's a riff called Naked and Famous, which is equal measures mezcal, Aperol, yellow Chartreuse, and lime juice. And I saw somebody called that the Bastard Love Child of The Last Word and the Paper Plane. Which is a bourbon, amaro, and apparel. So that got me really intrigued. And I made a Naked and Very Famous by adding mezcal, but also with a lovely cognac, which in French should work, and playing around those sort of flavors with a bit of Aperol as well. So and some even habanero, because that spice sometimes brings out the like being Indian, we like a bit of cooking. So you bring a bit of spice in. Brings out the flavors in a different way, so nice to play that way. And it's great to see a liqueur that's got its own sort of world day. So World Chartreuse Day on I was about to say May the 4th be with you, but that's to do my other drink. But 16th of May. 16th of May. 16th. So
16th of May. That was nearly Pauline's birthday.
Yeah, well, last year it coincided with World Whiskey Day, so I don't know if that's going to happen this year. So
whiskies get their own day.
Yeah, well, I think whiskey's probably got about 10 days.
Chartreuse has been around for 900 years.
Yeah, I think whiskey's got like 10 days, so bourbon. So at least Chartreuse got its own. And whether they've started a line and they're the same this year, I don't know. But last year they thought, well, mix the two up. I created a drink called Off the Charts. A green Chartreuse, so it was equal measures. Green Chartreuse, a nice malt. I used Singleton, a an aquavit, but it's a barrel-aged aquavit from Norway, from Berexton. You might know Berexton, amazing gin. And a Fino sherry, Zacco Fino sherry. And he would be really happy to hear, I did use a bit of that thing. And that is quite spooky. And just shake it up in a Nicanora and a cherry, and boom, really nice drink. So loads of options. I've got more. If anyone's interested, I can let you know, ping them out. I wish Instagram was a bit more intuitive. We could just go search like mixed Mann, Chartreuse, and boom, there they are. But thankfully, I write these on Word and I do a little search, and sometimes I find.
Well, I can bring up one of your serves if you sort of know what it is. I can bring it up onto screen because I have your account live.
Okay.
But that might have put you on the spot with that one. It depends how far back it was. It's not so easy to search quickly via Instagram, as you quite rightly say. But if there was one, if you said it was like 2 weeks ago or something like that, I can have a quick scan through and have a quick thing.
Yeah, I probably played with it. I did one with actually it's funny. I did one with some cognac again with a Hein rare with some Chino, which is like a walnut liqueur, Italian green walnut, and a bit of French, just a bit, yellow Chartreuse, and again, just really simple, shake it up with a bit of lemon burst. So that was actually a week or two ago, I think. So you get to get through it a bit. It's starting to go a bit.
Your Instagram feed, really, I know it's terrible. Like to say, like, I'm maybe looking at you, but like, it's terrible to say this, but I'm mesmerized as I'm scrolling through. It is rather gorgeous. I didn't mean your Instagram feed's terrible. It's not. I should be looking and focusing on what I am, but like, another tab on Chrome browser. I'm just kind of like.
Well, actually, another mad one I did. I don't know if you've tried. I think they call it Lorb vodka. It's the one that's got caviar infused in the bottle. And I mixed that with yellow Chartreuse, a bit of creme de cacao, white creme de cacao, because when you're drinking the Chartreuse, there's always there's a chocolatey tannin, as you said, David. There's a tannin bit coming through, and it works really well with chocolate, I think. So I mixed, I think it was 60 ml of that caviar vodka, 10 ml of the yellow Chartreuse, 10 of the creme de cacao, a little bit of you get the white bitter Luxardo Bianco. Just 5 ml of that, and 25 ml of lemon juice, and then just to bring it together, Dan will like this. I used some Monin macadamia nut syrup, and just a real play on sort of nuttiness and all those herbs, a bit of chocolate, the little salinity from the caviar, and salt brings out flavors in cocktails. It makes the flavors and the sugars sort of pop a little bit more. So that was quite an interesting experiment, which I think worked.
You had David. Do you know David particularly? If you know him, you know that he's a bit of a Star Wars geek.
I know. I mean, that's what I'm waiting for, and honestly, that's why I'm not saying anything.
Is this a surprise? Okay,
But you had a serve like just recently where it kind of features that. I kind of like it is kind of. I know Mandalorian finished and stuff like not long ago, but it is kind of. Is that the one that you were gonna make?
Yes, yeah, because I know you like your Lego, Star Wars Lego, and all that stuff, Pete. So, and when I
get me away from reality.
May the spirits be with you, I'm sure. But it was one I did last year. I did it for May the 4th, as you do. And one or two people have done Baby Yoda, and it looks beautiful. And I thought, well, let's have a go. But there's no true mix. It's the look as opposed to what's in the glass. So I had a play at what's in the glass, and it did quite well on my page. But one of the bigger boys, I think it's Cocktails page, they posted it. They got like 4,500 likes. I'm thinking, oh bloody hell, why didn't I get those? So yeah, it's a Baby Yoda.
Here is the internet for you, eh?
Yeah, so it's a Baby Yoda. That's before we knew what his name was. So back then, I used a bit of the Duppy share, but the spiced one, which has more of the pineapple flavour.
Pineapple and chartreuse used to be a combo.
Yeah, And then the green chartreuse. So I'm going to mix one up in a minute if I can get the angles right now. But I'll take you through what was in it, and then it'll be easier. So yeah, Duppy Show spiced green chartreuse. Dan will be happy again. I used the green matcha, Monin matcha tea syrup. Now you can make that at home, but it does get even murkier than the Dagobah swamp. So the Monin one's a bit clearer, and my one bottle's not in good nick, but might be
I see,
yeah. So a bit of that, 15 ml of that, 60 ml of pineapple juice, 50 ml of lime juice, and then where I went a bit different, I've already pre-muddled these, so you don't see me, exercising. So I put 5 slices of this humble little thing called a cucumber. You've seen one of these? If anyone eats salad,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and
I think
I put 6 to 8 basil leaves in as well. So I've done it a bit earlier just to let it infuse with some lime juice. Just it draws out flavors and the greenness even more. So yeah, and then there was a touch of ginger bitters, and I call it the Dagobah share, Docky share, Dagobah share. Yeah, but now that we're going to today use a bit of that stuff, 3-year-old Dollies.
Who knew? Like, what the chances?
And I might shove a little bit of Velvet in for a bit of fun. I thought we would call it Grogu's Grog or something like that. I don't know if he's the right age to drink yet. I think he's 50,
isn't he?
Yeah,
could be like 50.
Got my looks as well, so cute looks. So I've pre-prepared him a little bit. So he's got his ears, and I've got a little bit of it's cold here at the moment, so I've scarfed him up a bit. So he's got his ears, and shall I start mixing?
Oh please, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Right, I can I do this?
You play, you do your thing, and we'll work around it. Because
so, as I said, I've already what we call muddled, so mashed up the these two things, what they called vegetables, cucumber and basil. So happily sitting away, muddling there and stewing them. So to that, I will add already pre-squeezed the lime and put. You can see a nice look there. Got the lime and you got the syrup, the matcha tea syrup. So I'll stick that in now.
the problem with this is that I'm not going to be able to try it because you're a long way away from me.
I'm not in a galaxy far away, but yeah.
You're far enough away. To be fair, you could be in Poole, and I still wouldn't be able to go over and see you or something. So yeah.
60 ml of fresh lime pineapple juice going in there. We will use got a little bit of opened Geordie, so 60 ml of that. Only
60 ml on top of. Yeah. Home measures, definitely. It's going to be. We're all kind of keen to go back to bars, but like at regular bar size proportions are going to be tough to get back to, aren't they?
Yeah, it'll taste like water, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully not swamp water like this, but yeah, 15 ml. I really prefer this type of jigger. It's for the sort of aim need retentive. You get the exact measures going on. Yeah. And jiggers look nice, but. So put a little bit of velvet Falernum in, just for Pete, keep him happy and keep him quiet. So I'll put 5 ml of that in. I
think it's going to get to the point where I suggest that everyone puts velvet Falernum in everything. Like it doesn't matter, doesn't matter what you're having, coffee, tea, any, whatever.
Was one of the recipes that I came across was adding green chartreuse to your hot chocolate.
Oh yes.
I get that. That feels like a really nice. I mean, it's like mint chocolate. I mean, it's kind of like it has that menthol vibe, and it feels like it's going to work, without even trying it.
It is a very sort of comforting kind of liqueur, I think, particularly the green one. As I said, that's why I think it works so well in the hip flask.
I mean, that's almost hip flask size, isn't it? I mean,
it is. Yeah.
I need one of those. I need to get that. I think that's gonna. I think that needs to feature in my
That's
life.
right.
I kind of thought we would. There was a little while ago on social media. I was asking about the green swizzle. That's kind of a drink that's got a connection to Barbados for a long time. Yeah, long historical thing. I'm sure somebody suggested because the wormwood bitters features in the green swizzle. Well, you can get them. I mean, but someone said, "Oh, use the chartreuse."
The Elixir,
because I can understand why.
I mean, and I guess because they're right, you got the Chartreuse Massive, which is the mountains. It's a big area, and it's a big vermouth making area on the French side, and then it goes over to you're close to the Italian border. So all the herbs that are used in Amaro and vermouth, wormwood, mugwort, absinthe, what do they call it, absinthe, and loads of things that are growing up there. So they shove all of it in. I put these lights on, but it's making me look older now. Anyway, but I'm gonna put.
You look gorgeous, mate. Don't you first?
Especially after a few of these.
Right, one thing.
Shake it up.
One thing I don't think this is one that we don't have. This is it's another Chartreuse product, but it's a gentian.
Oh, nice.
And they do a couple of other liqueurs. So they do a walnut liqueur, going back to your yeah, there's a few different liqueurs and stuff they do. But we were just focusing on the Chartreuse today, so
you know what? We're kind of like, it's nice. It feels refreshing to not have to be talking about rum. Just feels like something you just kind of things that taste good, and it's nice to be off the hook once in a while. Can we do this again, please, with something else? That'd be really nice.
I told you we'd do it with some Benedictine.
That's all messy. I'm really messy.
Maybe.
Benedictine. We'd have Benedictine and brandy, because we've got that, the mixed B&B, and then the old one. Oh, look at this.
But it definitely looks like a swamp.
Wow, I thought, to be fair, I think you're being a bit hard on yourself. You say it's swamp-like. I mean, it's definitely opaque and green.
Yeah. And a bit of a horror show. I'll put his eyes back in.
Look at that.
Here we go.
Beautiful. Right, so if you can bottle some up and courier it down to me, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm not sure if it'll last. The Angel share might get it, or the Harpy share might get it. You never know.
Harpy share. Is that a problem in your house? Is it the Harpy share? I love it, honestly. It is nice to be able to take time and make stuff. I'm obviously like, how long between, like, how much prep do you have before you actually make the drink? How much staging do you do before you actually say you're ready, and then you and then put the thing down and then take the photos? So, like, is there
sometimes some of the best ones are when you're completely not prepared, like tonight's show, and and I thought it better to focus on the cute guy, and I think what it is, I sometimes get a bit more mixed up with focus on the recipe, because look, although sometimes you want them to look good, I want to make sure that if something like a Dan or some of the other guys on here have a go and they say, oh, bloody shit, so I need to make sure it stands up for what it is. But then when I start going fancy with garnishes and the look and feel and lovely glasses and all that stuff, that's all added theatre. But I want to make sure it tastes right. So I can spend a few hours thinking up, or even a few days thinking up of a recipe, or it might just come to me when I'm at sleep at night at 3 o'clock in the morning and I need to write it down. So it just stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Excuse me.
I suppose you want me to see, make you jealous, and I might have a little swig and see what it tastes like.
I can see it tastes all right. He spits it out. You're like, that's crap. It's amazing. That'd be awesome.
I would say so. It does taste good. Now, I'm trying to. The taste is it's actually really, strangely enough, and I don't know how that happens. It's tasting a bit like sort of a green cantaloupe watermelon. Really weird, but there's I suppose that might be the pineapple, but there's the herbalness of the 130 odd botanicals is coming through, and you're getting the freshness of the cucumber, because cucumber is amazing to use in the drink, especially with mezcal. You know, the smoke of mezcal, it really works well. So that's why I thought shove a bit of cucumber in this to sort of do something different. And then basil, you know, we all know the basil smashes and things like that. Brilliant with in drinks. And in case they haven't got it, you know, maybe it's 131 botanicals now. So let's see.
I'm not sure there's a chance they haven't, to be fair. But I mean, like, has anyone gone through the list of what's grown regularly in that part of the world and like, well, there's only 100 and so many there, you know. David, you were going to make a cocktail earlier on, but we didn't get a chance to kind of feature it. What were you going to make, chap?
I was going to make what you had suggested, the swizzle.
Oh, because we need to kind of, I think we need to explore the why that chartreuse and pineapple works, if we can, because like it just seems to be.
Yeah, I was because it was interesting. We were talking about how well like chartreuse and gin go together, but most of the drinks were long, and I was like, how come there's no long?
Oh shit! I've just taken his ear off. Evander Holyfield. The return of Mike Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking there's not really any long gin and chartreuse drinks. So I was playing around with that and went for something that was slightly Collins-esque with the soda, but the chartreuse, and went for the chartreuse and pineapple. Another tip from Kelly Rose. My pineapple juice is downstairs, so I just need to go and get it.
To be fair to David, he has been like a hard day of spirits judging today as well. So
life, that is.
There are some people. There are some people. It's so it's World Vodka World Drinks Awards. So the vodka section today has been going on. I've noticed. I don't judge with vodka. I judge with a few things, but we're not particularly. But it is there's a. It's very easy to be very busy all the time. David is a very busy gentleman, I have to say. I'm not quite sure how he fits it all in. What he needs is either he needs a small child or something in his life to kind of slow him down. No, he doesn't. He really doesn't. He doesn't need the. He really doesn't need the drag factor.
Well, mine are not so small, but they still drag you down.
they take up your time. David fits a lot into his life. Oh, Steve. We're just saying, mate, what you need is a 3-year-old to kind of like to slow you down a bit from all the stuff that you do, you know.
Well, thanks, Pete. My mum's watching as well, so.
No pressure.
Right, I think
mate, you should have married into a West Indian family or an Indian family. You've had lots of pressure.
A gin swizzle, please.
Yes, please. Thank you. Unfortunately, I've drunk my chartreuse.
I'm ready. I've got it all. I think I've got everything.
Yeah, go on then.
Up. Gin swizzle? How do I do it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go for it.
How do what's the recipe?
What gin are you using, by the way?
Oh, me? I don't know.
Gin?
What? I thought you... Sorry, like, who's giving you the recipe, mate?
Gin in it? No, I'm getting really confused.
Oh,
I thought it was just pineapple juice, chartreuse, and...
I'm sure Pete has bastardised it with some product in there.
Sorry, okay, right. So let's start fresh. David, are you after some instruction?
Yes, please.
For what, mate? For which cocktail?
The chartreuse swizzle.
No gin and chartreuse swizzle.
Oh, chartreuse.
No, I know there's not.
No. Sorry, thinking of lost words. Okay.
I can show you.
So,
ready.
Let's see what measures you put in, Pete, and I'll see what I used last time.
I was just the chartreuse swizzle. Oh, damn it! I've closed the Instagram's reset. I was using the one from the Smuggler's Cove, because obviously I think that's where it come from. So the chartreuse swizzle, the spec that I was just drinking was 1.5 ounces of green chartreuse.
Yep.
Yeah, 1/2 ounce of John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum, the Falernum. Yep. The Falernum. There are no other Falernums out there. Just saying.
How much of that?
1/2 ounce.
Okay,
15 mil.
15 mil to anyone who interested.
Like to round
1 ounce. Well, I mean, to be fair, I prefer cocktail. I mean, someone was criticising cocktails in ounces, but I always kind of feel like that you get a bigger drink when you work in ounces than you do in like. Otherwise, you sort of like a measure is 25 mil. No, I like the idea of a measure being 30 mil. Like that kind of works for me.
Indian measures are 50 mils, but yeah.
Bigger glass. 1 ounce of pineapple, and then 3/4 of lime juice. I didn't swizzle mine. When I was making it earlier on, I didn't have time to crush the ice and stuff. So I kind of just poured it all over ice and then stirred it vigorously. And actually, you know what? It worked quite nicely. The pineapple came through. It came through differently because you didn't have the aeration and all that kind of stuff going on. But it was actually generally a very nice beverage. Or maybe it's just because it's been a very long day and I was just very, very desperate for a beverage. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. It was interesting looking at some of the recipes for something that's only been created in 2002. You know, some of the websites all have their own different recipes, but all had different garnishes as well. So the one I wrote down had a little bit more pineapple juice, but then again, actually, if you want to taste the Chartreuse, maybe so dropping the pineapple juice to an ounce probably is a better call. But I saw all sorts of garnishes. There was one with a pineapple wedge and a maraschino cherry. By the way, before I forget, so it's 200 years this year of Luxardo. So it's they're celebrating 200 years.
200
That's
years.
why I thought.
Let me get some product placement in as well. This book's coming out on May the 7th. March the 7th. March the 7th, not May the 7th.
March the 7th. The Grimy. See, this guy, how many books is this now? How many books are you written?
6. I think this is the 6th, I think.
Wow.
I've lost, to be fair, I've lost count, but it's something like that.
The research of what you must go through for all of that must have been painstaking.
How much did you drink in order to come up with that book? That was the question. Like, how many different Negroni variations did you come up with?
Well, it wasn't just me. Kelly Rivers was there helping me as well.
Yeah.
Good old Kelly. It says more than 30. That's what it says on the cover.
More than 30.
So
yeah, but you're drunk more than that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Is there a rum Negroni in there? Just out of interest.
There is. Otherwise, they wouldn't send you a book, would they? I mean, the Kingston, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah, the Kingston Negroni.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's.
Yeah, there is. There you go, Kingston Negroni.
Fantastic. I have to say, it does work quite rather well.
With Smith and Cross, because I want a powerful Negroni.
I mean, yeah, it's delicious. Smith and Cross is delicious. I have to say that it's just if I was keeping myself on brand or a different brand, that a Negroni with Signature Blend number 2 also works rather nicely.
I can imagine.
Equal measures of Kochi, Campari, and Signature Blend number 2, which I then at Christmas I did it for my cousin. I was normally at Christmas, right? Or run up to Christmas, I get the opportunity to run like a kind of cocktail pop up at our local kind of tiki bar thing, which means that I kind of like, it's nice to kind of make a buck or two in December, but equally all the friends in the area that come round, I can give them a few shots and drinks and stuff like that. This year, obviously, we couldn't because COVID. So I pre-batched a few cocktails and half-litre bottles and kind of gave them out to friends. But the Negroni, I did kind of, pre-mix it and then kind of a little bit of dilution to it, and then suggested they just kind of shove it in the fridge and then just pour it as you go. And it's ridiculously dangerous because when you don't even have to bother like measuring and pouring it into a glass, you can get through quite a lot of it quite quickly when you're just pulling it straight from the fridge and pouring it in your glass. Just saying.
I think Negroni is one of the ones that works really nicely as a batched drink. I think there's something to do with like the ingredients do somewhat mellow together. So it's like one of those ones where like in some cases unless you want to make it specifically, actually having the batched work to be fair, I batch my Campari and my vermouth together. So anytime I want to make the Negroni, I've got that bit already done.
Take the edge off the Campari, just out of interest.
Sorry?
Does that sort of take that kind of edge off a little bit? Does that allow it to sort of smooth? Campari is a bit aggressive on its Todd, isn't it? I think it could.
It does mellow it out. I must say hello to Steve, or good day to Steve, as he's in Australia. Good day, I must say.
I see a question from Darminda. I was using maraschino cherries from Luxardo, but there are other brands are available as well.
But not those that are celebrating 200 years.
True.
Feels like it does feel
Just
like this
on
one. We're very
taking the edge off. Taking the edge off Campari. Two ways. So one way would be to split base the Campari. So when you say split base, halve the amount and put in something else. So I tend to use half Aperol and half Chartreuse when I give a Negroni to my wife, because she hates the bitterness. So I do that. But then what I also do is, if you can wait overnight, or maybe even 3 or 4 hours, shove about 3 or 4 coffee beans in, leave it overnight, and the coffee just dissolves.
I had heard about that. I've not tried it, but it sounds fantastic.
Wonderful. It's really good.
Really good.
Another one, if you're really lucky, I've got a little, I've got not one of these, but if you get a little wooden oak aging bottle thing that you can use overnight, you pour the whole thing in there, so the Negroni and that, leave it overnight with a coffee.
Interesting that you mention it, because I was given a bottle of cask aged Campari, which is like some, I don't know if it's continuing, but the sentence was it was going to be a series that, well, I think it was duty free. So I think this was like an ex-bourbon one, and it was a litre, and it was a Campari that had been put in about, and it was fantastic. And I must say, I now have a Campari barrel.
Yeah. Don't blame me.
Just so I can kind of recreate it.
You get like the Negroni changes into like a more like a, you get the cherryness because you're getting the vanilla and the oak. It's got that cherry note and takes the edge off.
I mean, it's just so many interesting things. And actually, I mean, whilst we're talking about Chartreuse, what we did for the book was like, if you've got all these variations, it's like, how many times do you want to have to make all this stuff? So a good chunk of the recipes, if you make the base pre-mixed Negroni, whatever gin you like, whatever, then you can use that, and then you can just modify it with lots of different things. Like, we've got one that's got coffee in it and stuff like that. It's sort of after dinner Negroni and this. I mean, these sorts of things. It's the sort of thing that you're doing. It's just fun, isn't it? You kind of have this, like, this is the idea. What is the Negroni for after dinner? What is the Negroni for breakfast? There isn't a breakfast Negroni in there, but like, you know.
Should be, mate. Seriously.
Sure, it could be done during lockdown.
Well, lockdown has changed things massively. I don't know how you view. I mean, maybe you have to. I suppose if you have a job in IT, then maybe you have to have a degree of common sense about your life. I'm not sure. You know, if I have a day where I have to do some writing, I find that definitely something in me coffee in the morning kind of helps the writing flow just a little bit. Hemingway style, isn't it? Like, write drunk, edit sober.
It's a few other people like here. Bernie, I know you're a fan.
Bernie couldn't join us this evening because, despite being full of facts and interesting, she's also having a dinner and didn't want to share that with us. So, boo. We'll get her on next time, though. She's definitely coming up for something. Cool. Well, that was awesome. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
I genuinely, it was very nice to try some things, and I'd be very up for it. It'd be nice to once in a while just kind of step outside of rum and kind of just try some stuff. It'd be really good. So if anyone would like to sponsor us with something tasty, that'd be amazing. Product placements are very easily come by in our sessions. So it seems anyway.
In case you hadn't heard, Pete, I have got some Benedictine.
Well, I have a bottle of Benedictine, and to be fair, I probably got it somewhere. I don't know. I bought it a very long time ago. It's somewhere. I've got it somewhere. Yes.
You've got 3. It'll be nice. It'll be a nice little selection of 3. Might even put the cask aged Campari in there as a bonus.
Nice. Again,
that's got one of these bottles. We've got a Benedictine, which has got the 2. It's a double bottle. So,
yeah.
But unfortunately, one of the corks broke off it like donkeys years ago. So one half isn't there and the other half is. So, but I can't remember.
They used to do that. Like I've seen like some like liqueur bottles that were like, it was one bottle but in 4 compartments. So like, there was the 2 was quite, but then there's like one in with like 4, not necessarily for Benedictine, but they'd be like a Violette and then like a creme de menthe, and so it'd be like very colourful, very sort of. When's our next talk, Pete? Is it?
I don't know, mate. We haven't got one planned, have we?
16th.
Sorry, say that again.
We're not doing something. Is it the 16th?
Yes, well, we have a gin. I can't believe I'm going.
We are.
I'm going to do gin.
I know. Well,
Do I
you're
have to
talking
wear a
about
shirt?
you want to
Do
have
I have
a
to wear a
break.
shirt? Do I have to wear a shirt for that one?
You can wear what you're wearing. No, you can just wear what you're wearing. That's fine.
I'm wearing a Harry Potter. I'm actually a Death Eater t-shirt for this one. Harry Potter. That's my Harry Potter t-shirt today. Scares my daughter.
Yeah, it's 16th of February at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
So we'll be discussing the Mojito Gin. Which is
gin.
Cool. A collaboration between myself and Pete and Joe and Rupert at Conker. So we'll all be on the line chatting about Mojito Gin.
Conker is just if you can. Conker is about 1.5 miles away from me, over that way, just over there. So I like Conker Gin. So actually, very cool, very very regional for me. But unfortunately, it still feels like another world because I'm not allowed to go over there. I can't leave this front room apparently. So if we do the Benedictine, it looks like Sean is very, very excited about it, and maybe actually we could invite Sean in to talk about with a chocolate side of it as well at some point as well. So
I've got no problem. I've got the samples, so I can send them on to someone else. Avian offered us some barrel-aged sloe gin. I think we'd definitely be up for that.
I think you need to offer that to everyone on the here.
I was going to say we only need 4 liters. Thank you, Avian. We don't need all of it. You can keep some of it yourself. That was cool. Negroni police will tell you off. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, true. I mean, I like this idea of twisting up cocktails is actually quite fun. I mean, I kind of like when I'm looking through my cocktail book, if it's anything other than rum, I'm looking like, well, can I put rum in it and make it work, like Kingston Negroni or whatever, you know? So if it doesn't work with rum, I'm probably not.
Kingston Negroni's still got Campari in it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I have to say for a long. I mean, are we gonna? What's the? No, we won't do it now. There are initially I didn't like Campari. I have to say it took me a very long time to get into it. Like remember all those years ago, like Gin Club at Graphic. That's kind of like I'm pretty much sure that's where we kind of first met all those donkeys years ago. But like people are going to have a Negroni, and I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I've heard of this. I love a Negroni. It's like, God, that's fucking horrible. Why would anyone drink this? It's so bitter. It's like beer. But I've kind of grown into it over the last little while.
It is an acquired taste for sure. I think I did do tasting notes on 18 Negronis once. The variation was a different red vermouth, and after I'd done that, then I built up a resistance.
Well, I think you have to try it a lot. Famous
you got to suffer for your art. You got to suffer for your art.
Was it a couple of years ago? Was it? Campari was celebrating 100 years. And
the Negroni was 100 years old, like 2 years ago, maybe.
That's it. And they had managed to stagger home after the event, but they had 100 different Negronis in different stations in near where they do the cocktail week, London Cocktail Week. And I think I got researched about a quarter of them.
Someone gave me some. I think it was our mutual friend Maritza, Pete, gave me some Campari dice. So like the 3 dice, and you roll them, and they've got one of them's got different spirits on, rye whiskey, gin, whatever. One's got different vermouths on, and then the other one just says Campari on every side. So then you're like, I don't know what I want to drink. And then you just
brilliant! We can try that with Russian roulette as well. Never mind.
Well, yeah, they can.
Actually, you know what? I actually quite like that idea. That's really good. That's the simplest ideas, eh? Cool. Yep. Right. I think we could probably draw a line on that one here.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for all the comments and the questions.
Back for Benedictine at a later stage. No, actually, no. So now I've got a bunch of live streams before this, but with this beautiful gentleman called David T. Smith, I've got Conker on the 16th. We said, and then Harp. I'm really hoping you'll be able to join us for some boutique-y love, of which I haven't planned or scheduled yet at all, but it'd be really good too. So thank you very much for anyone who some people joined us. We got comments, so thank you for that. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it. It was tasty. Oh my God, I'm so having another swizzle in a minute. Right, cheers for that.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
TTFN.